Oh, sick. Are we live? Oh, hell yes. What is up, guys? How are we doing today? It's good to see you. So, if I kind of like blink back and forth a lot, it's because I'm trying not to murder anyone on the road. And it's getting dark out and kind of challenging. So, since my channel is not just about me rambling on, poetically waxing into the night, it's about health, it's about fitness, it's about eating things, how you can cook them. I really wanted to share that with you. So a couple of interesting things. We've got the holidays coming up. And by holidays, I mean we've got Christmas, we've got New Year's, we've got pushy family members that come over and they like pinch your cheek and they're like, "Oh, Judy, you're looking a little thin. You should eat more." How do we deal with that? You know, how do we deal with the psychological repercussions of getting bullied into perhaps eating foods we don't want to eat, and B, if we do want to engage in some foods there, how can we go about it in a way that is less damaging to our bodies, less damaging to our waistlines, and more conducive to a healthy, happy lifestyle? So, kind of going through that, the psychological path that you can choose for that is pretty basic. It's just a simple, no thank you, I appreciate it, or maybe later. Maybe later is really effective. If you want a simple one that's not very confrontational, if you're someone that struggles a bit with that like I do, you can just be like, yeah, sure, maybe later. Or you can be like, hey, I'm not hungry at this instant, but maybe later. And they'll usually just be like, oh, okay. Or if they put it on your plate, be like, that's fine. And then you just kind of push it around and, you know, maybe have a bite and then talk a lot. And then be like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom, and then, you know, let them do a lot of talking and stuff like that. And then whenever they're done, you just kind of put your plate away. And the second option you can go for is a little bit more in their face. You can just say, no, I don't want any. Or like, no, thank you. Just a no. No, I'm good. I'm good, thank you. I'm like, nah, thanks. Those are all options where you're acknowledging what they're doing, but you are not letting their frame control your frame. In pickup, they call it controlling the frame. So don't let them pressure you into doing something that you wouldn't normally do. So for instance, if you don't want a piece of pie, or you don't want a piece of cake, or you don't want another cookie, you're like, I don't want to be a pudgy pudgy. I'm like, what are you trying to be, some kind of a fitness man? Huh? What's wrong with you? You're like, yeah, I am. Agreeing's another one. That just takes the wind out of people's sails. If you want to do something that is going to just absolutely diffuse a conflict and really just take away any fuel for the fire, agree with them. Agreeing with them just takes it out of there, man. Be like, well, are you trying to be some kind of fitness guy? Be like, yeah. And they're like, why? I'm like, well, why not? Like, well, you think you're better than me? Be like, no. Like, well, then have a piece of cake. Be like, no, I'm good, thanks. Or they'll be like, you know you want it. You know, that's another one. You know you want it. Be like, I'm good. No, thanks. You can just, there's so many ways you can just like pass on things with agreeing with people, being like, yeah, I am a fitness fuck. I'm a fitness bitch. That's me, Mr. Fitness Bitch. Or you can just be like, no, thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate that. Thank you, but no thanks. You know, maybe later. Those are all good ways to kind of pass on that. But if we're going along to say you do want to eat it, you're like, I do want that cookie. That cookie look good. And you want it, then there's a couple of things you can do. Firstly and foremostly, before you have your cookie, have some type of protein. Doesn't matter really what, just have a protein and have some type of fiber. Again, it doesn't really matter what kind of fiber you're having. It could be some Metamucil tablets, it could be some broccoli, it could be some asparagus, it could be any type of vegetable. It could be, I'd prefer you not have a fruit just because it does have a bit more sugar and can spike your insulin a bit more. So if you're wanting to follow this kind of protein fiber, shoot for something like an actual vegetable. You know, broccoli, cauliflower, carrot, some type of non-starchy veggie. So potatoes and sweet potatoes I would not do for this hack. So try and avoid those ones for this one. I'm not saying they're bad, I'm just saying that for this in particular, avoid those ones. For me personally, I always go for something that's like broccoli, or I usually go for asparagus, or I go for some, I'm trying to think of something else that's kind of like that. Spoonful of psyllium fiber, or psyllium fiber, however you're supposed to say that. Things like that. And those are all really good ones you can loop on there. And Other than that, just anything that's not a starchy veggie. I'm kind of drawing a blank right now, and I apologize for that. But those are all things you can have. As far as proteins, if you wanted some chicken, if you want some turkey, if you want some beef or pork or shrimp or fish, those are all things you can have in there. Heck, you can even have a protein shake. So those are things you can do, and you can still have your 100% greasy, fatty, whatever it is you want to have after that, cookies, cake, whatnot. It'll blunt that insulin response you're going to have. If you're someone that likes a little bit more of a supplement type of stack that you can do, then I would definitely recommend getting a tablespoon of psyllium husk fiber, mixing that into 8 ounces of cold, not hot, cold water, and mixing it rapidly and immediately drinking it, and then going for a tab of berberine. I don't want to mess you up on the actual dosage, and I forget what it is. I think it's 50 to 100 milligrams is what it is. Don't quote me on that. But those are ones you can have, and that will help to kind of blunt that glucose response your body's going to have, where it's like, oh, we have sugar, need to store, need to store, need to store, need to use, need to store. So it'll tone it down a bit. It'll help it absorb slower. You could also have some omega-3 fatty acids, so you can have like 2 to 4 tabs of omega-3s, and that'll usually be 1 to 4 grams of fat from that. So you'll be getting like 40 grams of omega-3s. Salmon's a really good one to get it from, or I believe you can get it from shrimp nowadays as well, so that's pretty cool. Those are good ones you can snag. And going on from other ones that you can kind of get for stacks, those are the ones that I typically do. I know that you can get into some of the harder hitting ones. I typically don't use those just because A, they cost more, and B, I'm trying to stay away from a lot of added supplements as much as I can. Trying to get a little bit back to the greens, back to the earthy stuff, and that kind of thing. Now, if you're looking at, hang on. We got a little bit of a traffic clog coming up here. Now, if you're looking at avoiding just the traditional sweet treats and things like that, and how you can really put a twist on some of the healthy stuff, here's a secret. Come here. Add pumpkin to stuff, or applesauce. I know it sounds wild. But if you're making brownies, you're making cookies, you're making cake, add some applesauce, add some pumpkin puree. Your life is going to be changed. Hell, you can even add mashed up bananas. It's going to vastly change the stuff. In fact, a lot of them, for things like carrot cake, encourage you to add walnuts, super high on omega-3s, and raisin or dates, higher in fiber. And granted, you're going to be getting some more calories with it. So if you're looking at cutting down your calories, perhaps not the path I would go. But if you're looking at adding more beneficial fiber, more beneficial fats, definitely the way I would recommend going. It's going to be solid. It's going to be good for you. Your body's not going to have as nasty of a spike from that. Say, for instance, if you just ate some white cake mix from the store, and you are going to be getting the gains from all those micronutrients, and it's going to healthify the absolute shiznit out of your recipes. And it is going to be fabulous. So, adding some pumpkin puree, adding some applesauce, adding some mashed bananas, it's going to add sweetness, it's going to add moisture, it's going to add color, it's going to add micronutrients. It's fantastic. It's just good stuff. Would recommend that. Other things you can do to really improve the overall quality, there's a lot of those quick little mug cakes out there that you can make with egg whites. Egg whites and bananas are going to be a base for a lot of good things. You'll see them a lot of time for making quote-unquote healthy instant pancakes, and they do taste kind of like an eggy pancake, I'm not gonna lie. It does have a bit more of that held together consistency that you'll find in eggs and omelets than what you would find in a traditional pancake. But if you still throw in some flour with it, yeah, it's pretty good. And you can make all different varieties of mug cakes with that. So your base is going to be egg whites, banana. It's usually going to be something like a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of egg whites, and then 1 to 2 mashed up bananas. And then you can kind of play around with your consistency for flour, and then throw in a little bit of baking soda. I'm not remembering this exactly, but I want to say it's like an 1/8 to a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. You can check me online. And mix all that together with a fork or a really sturdy whisk or an immersion blender if you're bougie. And then you can add in your flour and whisk it up with the fork. And ultimately what that's going to do is you're going to get your base, and then you can start adding things in. Then you can add your cocoa powder if you want a chocolate one and some chocolate chips. Then you can add your cinnamon and your nutmeg and your ginger if you want something that's a little bit more of a cinnamon streusel type of flavor. You can take a little bit of sugar and sprinkle it on top. Or if you want to get really fancy, you can whisk together some milk and some powdered sugar until you get a paste, and then drizzle that over the top. Oh, sublime. Good stuff right there, man. Good stuff. Or if you're looking at something that's a little bit more fruity and you want something that's almost like a pina colada, you can take the previous ingredients, your banana, your egg whites, your flour, baking soda, and salt, and a little bit of salt. I forgot salt. You want to add about an 1/8 teaspoon of salt or salt to taste. And then you will add in some coconut, some pineapple, and a maraschino cherry or two on top. And that's some good stuff right there. Dang good. Now if you want a little bit more of a rum cake flavor, go and get your favorite cheap, expensive rum, whatever you want, mix your base ingredients, put in about a tablespoon of rum, and then put it in the microwave. And what's nice about that is whenever it heats it up, you're actually evaporating off some of the alcohol, but you're leaving the flavor of the rum, which is really nice. I should have said really nice like 5 billion times. It's quite enjoyable, if I do say so myself. Yes, it lends itself to a flavour of a warm Caribbean night where hula dancers in front of you, miraging and marauding and straight up just mesmerising you and hypnotising you with the rhythm of how they're creating your pina colada drink with the coconut and the lime. It's delicious. Yes, most enjoyable. So that's some of the flavors you can do. If you're looking for something that's a bit more, I guess, standard American, then put your chocolate in and go get a nice big old tablespoon or two of peanut butter, put that thing on top, chop up like a quarter of a banana, put it on top, and you got your standard Elvis shake in mug cake format. Now if you're looking at something that's more traditional, so you're looking at something like a fruit, what is it? What's that song? Grandma got run over by a reindeer, and something about the unbelievably durable fruit pie or fruit tart or fruit cake, whatever it was. Fruit cake, that's what it is. Fruit cake. If you're looking at making a fruit cake that's not going to brick its way into your colon, then I would recommend... The problem with fruitcake from an actual recipe standpoint is that the syrup and the sugar help to contribute to the form of the fruitcake. So you can still use all the fruits, all the dried fruits. You can still use all the dried nuts, or I suppose just regular dried nuts. Not necessarily dried nuts are different from regular nuts. Yeah, all the nuts, all the dried fruits. And then what you'll do is I'd recommend trying to cut your sugar by about half. Cutting your sugar by about half, like the actual powdered sugar, is still going to leave it very sweet, but it's not going to overwhelm you. I will say a lot of recipes, unfortunately, whenever they get put into cookbooks, they increase their salt and their sugar and their grease and their butter by a lot so that the masses are fascinated by it. And the reason they do it is if you want something that tastes good, you're going to increase the fat content, increase the sugar content, and increase the salt content. And it does not matter what you're making, it will taste better. Potato chips, barbecue, has sugar in there. You're looking at cereal, has sugar in there. You're looking at any type of deep fried item, has massive quantities of fat in there. Cakes, cookies, baked goods, all of them have larger amounts than what they actually need. You don't need that much to make it taste good. In fact, a lot of the times it kind of ruins the experience by making it overly greasy, sugary, and fatty, and salty. So try cutting down your sugar by half. That's a big thing I'd recommend that you do. Once your sugar is kind of knocked down, if you're still looking at decreasing stuff, you can cut your fat by half, and you can increase, or actually not increase, you can put in an equivalent amount of applesauce. And I know that sounds wild, but most of the time it'll work. And that's a good little trick. spongy, more cakey, less almost cloud-like as you bite through it. So it'll make it more kind of bounce a little bit. But other than that, not a whole awful lot changes. And especially if you're making something that is like a carrot cake or a spice cake, it's actually going to lend itself to being a moister and more robust flavored cake, which in a lot of cases most people haven't had, and they may have even more than the regular cake. So if you make that and you're not someone that likes to cook, bear in mind you may become very popular very quick. But those are some things you can do for the holidays to kind of limit that overall spike if you want to do that. And other than that, stay happy, stay healthy, try out something new. Tag me in a comment if you have a recipe that's supposed to be gut healing or that you really have felt good after that you think I should try. So, ciao for now.